Well, here now to help break down this Fakhrizadeh assassination and what it might mean for the region is research fellow at the International Institute for Counterterrorism at IDC Herzliya, Dr. Fadi Essmaeel. Doctor, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so, let's start with the changing narratives, all right, because we've heard a couple of different stories with respect to how the assassination was carried out. How do you believe it went down?
First of all, I would say tell everyone, don't believe anything. We will not know this until decades from now, because that's what happens usually in those situations. Even decades later, as we know, if you remember the movie Munich that Steven Spielberg did, and we thought that he got everything right because it was 50 years later, we discovered that many of the assassination attempts were not, the scenes were simply incorrect. It didn't happen that way. So we will not know the details until a very long time into the future. I can tell you, we had previous assassinations. We had Osama bin Laden, we had Soleimani, we had Mughniyeh, and we thought we knew what went on there. So I want to tell everybody, cool your engines. I do hear the different stories. One thing I can tell for sure, it seems like a very large operation. Mr. Fakhrizadeh, we know him for years, even since the late 1990s. He's a general, Fakhrizadeh. Since he was a lieutenant colonel or something like that, he was already paid attention to by Western services. Reaching him or getting to him would have been a very, very difficult operation that probably involved dozens of people. And I would assume that what happened there, again, I don't know, I assume that all of a sudden a very narrow window opened up because the man was off every possible network or matrix.
They said it was a circuitous route that was changing regularly.
Yeah, he didn't use credit cards, he didn't use cell phones, he didn't use. The guy was off the net. He was nowhere, and so somebody caught something and they went for it.
Well, okay, so what evidence then? Because you're telling us that again, we can't take anything without a very large grain of salt.
A very large one. Yeah.
So how much stock do we put into the allegations that Israel is either involved or even orchestrating this attack?
Look, I would believe that the Mossad in some way was involved, maybe other agencies. Who knows? Maybe it was CIA. I don't know. We don't really know. And it could be, I'm not going to lie, many people pretend that they do. I tell you, if you weren't there, if you weren't part of the team, you don't really know. And I'm not going to pretend that I do. But the way it was done is reminiscent of previous operations that ended up being attributed either to Mossad or to the CIA. And I tend to think it was Israel with the help of local oppositions groups, maybe locals for sure. The Iranians are trying to say it was Mujahideen Khalq, maybe yes, maybe not. But this is not a simple operation. It means you had many people, many sentinels. This is an operation that uses many sentinels on the road. It uses a lot of cyber work. It uses a lot of logistics, probably satellites, stuff like that, literally like the movies. Because again, because of the type of the person, how secretive he was, and the kind of the whole system that was around him.
So, one of my final questions, I get, how important, and we've heard from a couple different people try to sum this up quickly, but how important was Fakhrizadeh to the Iranian nuclear program? How far back is the program set back by his death?
The question depends on does he have a good replacement or not. He has been long enough on the scene maybe to create a second, to raise another generation. He was not merely, some people call him a scientist. Yes, he was a scientist, he was a professor of physics, but he was also a major general in the Revolutionary Guard. So he's not only the guy who knows how a bomb works. He's a strategist. He's some kind of a Qasem Soleimani. Do they have somebody like him underneath him? We know the names of the people that they have, or some of them. We know after Soleimani, Qaini did not yet to prove himself at that stature. We don't know what's happening on the physics side of it. Maybe, I don't know. I hope not.
All right, well, Dr. Fadi Essmaeel, thank you so much for giving us some.
Thank you for having me.